Hello and welcome to another Photoshop tutorial. Today we will be working on banners. There are a few things to keep in mind, such as standard banner sizes, and this is especially true with Facebook, but applies to commercial applications as well. A Google search for standard banner sizes will return some great results, but for Facebook, we can go to facebook.com/cover photo size, all one word. That'll bring you to this website here, and they've shown you here all the dimensions, including the area that the thumbnail photo shows up in. And that's something to take into account when you're designing your cover photo. So let's go ahead and create a new Photoshop document with these dimensions. So in Photoshop, go to New Document, and let's put in our dimensions. We had 851 pixels wide by 315 pixels high. Now this is specific to a Facebook cover photo, but what I really want to focus on today is how to make your banners look good and how to take a photo or something and incorporate into a banner with text. So here's our banner. I'm going to go ahead and bring in our photo. So here I've opened our photo in another window, and what I'm going to do is just take my move tool, V on the keyboard, and drag it into my banner. You can see the go karts at the top. Let's crop those out. And to transform, Command T or Control T on Windows, stretch this, enter or return to save that. Now there's a few things we need to do with this image, and this often happens. This is cut off and that it doesn't look very nice. I'm actually going to go in and I'm going to do this because it's really easy, and I want to show you how easy it is to fix this and add the rest of that track in. But let's talk a bit about photography for your banner. It's very important to consider how everything's going to work together, and if at all possible, it's best to make sure you have things that are segregated and that you have consistent backgrounds so that you can select and remove them. Now, if I wanted to select these go-karts, it would actually be really quite simple. I would go to my magic wand. Okay, so let's zoom in nice and close so we can see what's happening here. So I've taken my magic wand and I can click on the gray. And because there's quite the contrast between the gray and the pink and the black and the other colors we have going on here, we can select the gray. And then if we go to select, inverse, we can add a mask by clicking over here, and we've removed that already. So now if I take a brush, B on the keyboard, resize, I'm using my bracket keys to resize, and if I paint with black in my mask, make sure you have your layer mask selected, bring our opacity up to 100, and I can get rid of the rest of that racetrack. That would be the simplest way to start incorporating this into a banner. So let's go ahead and do that real quick here. No time at all. I'm just going to touch up these edges a bit. Now I'm using CS5. Depending on what version you're using, you'll have some different tools. In CS5, I'm able to go in and edit my mask. Let's just bring up the standard window palette here. Reset. There we go. So now if I go to my masks, I can feather right in here. So let's just feather it a bit, brush that edge out, and let's drop in a solid color, and let's make that a green, and let's pick something web safe. Let's drag this in behind. Okay, so now we see we still have to do some work with this mask. So we can refine the mask edge, up the contrast of it, and we're going to shift it down a bit, and we're going to decontaminate colors. There, if we use a smart radius. Okay, there we got it. So perfect. I'm just going to zoom out a bit. There we go. So that would be the simplest way to select that. Now this is a workable banner. Now I can go in and add text. T on the keyboard. Click and drag. And you can see how quickly this starts to come together. I'm not going to go much farther than that. I'll leave it up to your creative expertise. We could have a whole nother video for that. Today, let's just focus on how to save this for web. So now we go to File, Save for Web and Devices. And JPEG is often what we want to do. Sometimes a GIF. Now the thing about a GIF is it will specifically pick out the colors you have in your image and create a color palette of 256 colors or less. Yeah, that reminds me of the 80s. Getting better. So 256 is good. And that can reduce your file size a bit compared to a JPEG. Be careful, sometimes it will actually create a larger file size. So the thing about a JPEG is JPEGs are really good with compression. And we can change the quality and drop it down. And you want to go to the point where you don't see any blocking. I can see pixels. Funny things happening with pixels there. So usually about 80%. Optimized. You can add a blur if need be. So you're going with a JPEG high, converting it to sRGB. You'll notice the difference there. sRGB is web safe color space. Make sure the image size is correct. And save. So by going through Save for Web, a few good points here. We can see how long it's going to take to load, the size of the image. We see all this information before we save it. And then we would save it to, let's just save it to our desktop. So there you have it. Now let's go back. Let's just hide our text for now. Let's remove our layer mask. And our duplicate layer. I want to talk about what I first saw when I saw this image. There's a few issues with it. This track gets cut off and that looks very abrupt and it just doesn't work for the image. But this is a really easy fix. Take the pen tool and using not the shape layer but a path, we're going to click and drag and finish the track. Just really roughly. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just the best you can. I'm holding Command or Control on your keyboard to click and move these points around. Still using the pen tool, but I can toggle using Command or Control. So that's good. I like that. So let's start off back where we were and just close this shape. Now we can select it and we can create a new color layer. And we're just going to pick a color from our racetrack. Go back to paths. Create a new path. This time what we're going to do, we're not going to close our path. We'll leave it open and what we'll do is we'll stroke the path with a brush stroke. So around we go. And that's close enough. Now what we need to do is set our brush. So if you go to your brush tool, B on the keyboard, we can do some really interesting things here. Let's open our brushes palette. And we want to turn on shape dynamics. Let's turn off angle jitter, roundness jitter, minimum diameter. And we're going to change this to fade. And the fade is going to be probably around 300. So you'll see here it starts off thick and then it goes thinner. So let's adjust our spacing. Hardness is good. Let's bring this up in size a bit. Now you can really see the effect here. So we're going to pick a size that closely matches our track. And then we're going to pick white as our color to paint with because the line is white. And then when we go over to our path here, Go over to layers. Let's create a new layer. Go over to our path again. Click on our path and you can see the solid circle here. Just going to push that once. It's a little too big, so Command Z to undo. Let's bring it down in size a bit. Let's go back to our shape dynamics. Fade, let's maybe make that 400. And let's stroke again. Not quite happy with it. Command Z. I'm going to go back again and just make this just a little bit smaller. Try again. Good, I like it, but it's fading too quick. So let's make this minimum diameter a little bit bigger. Perfect. Now you could do all that with a tablet as well by hand, but this is a lot more precise and you get a lot more control. So if we go back to our layers, we can see everything we've done here. Now I've got some overlap here, and this is really important because now what I want to do is package these two layers together. Select them and drag them into the folder icon at the bottom and it creates a group. Now I can mask it. I'm going to add a layer mask. I'm going to go to my gradient tool. I'm painting with black. Make sure you use black and transparent. If you have white selected, it'll show white and transparent. We want black. Black hides in a mask. Now we're going to paint in with our mask and our gradient, and we're going to fade this out. Now you see this doesn't quite line up here. That's okay. I'm going to fade it in. Okay, and then I'm going to go to my brush tool, make it considerably larger. Let's turn off that fade. We don't want that. And I'm going to brush that out. If you change the flow of your brush, it works kind of like an airbrush. Turn airbrush mode on. So that's most of it done. You can see that this looks really fake at this point though. Now you'll see there's a rounded edge here, so I can add a drop shadow to this guy here. So layer style, drop shadow. You can transform it. Okay, that's looking pretty good. One other thing we have to do is we do have to add a filter. Let's convert it to smart filters first. And what we're going to do is add a noise. Not a lot, just a bit. And then add a blur. I'm not adding colored noise. Okay, that's good. And then the last thing, because it's still not quite believable, take your marquee tool, M on the keyboard. Select an area. Go back to your original, Command J, copies that area. I moved it above my gray in the layer palette, rotating it, flip it. I'm not too worried about stretching it at this point. I just want some texture in there. And then if you Alt or Option click between the two layers, I can clip it to that layer, and there we go. We can tweak it a bit. Let's make it follow the curve of the road. So on this layer, I'm going to go to Filter, Distort, and do a, I think it's the zigzag. Yes, there we go. We want to be able to choose how many ridges and how much. And we'll fade that down to there, and we'll go, actually, let's go lighten with that. So we're changing the blend mode to lighten, and we're just matching it to about the same color. So there we go, very quickly, zoom out. And now what we can do is we can mask out the grass. Let's go back to our original layer. Magic wand, select the grass. You can use the quick select tool as well. It does a good job. Gets a little carried away sometimes. And then now you can Command I if that happens. Invert. Brush out some more of this. So now you've got something a little more interesting to work with. And it's really important to remember to shoot for your banner. Or find a stock photo, or find something that works really well for your banner. Find something that's simple to edit with solid colors so you can select objects out. And once that's done, again, you can save it, and there you have it. That's how you would create a Facebook cover image or a banner for an advertisement. And I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it works well for you. Rex, thank you for sponsoring this tutorial, and we look forward to many more.